Hey, Cal Paralyzed Math Industry, and we are going to be learning about the introduction to trade. So, in the past videos, we have been taking a look at stuff like supply and demand and the economic curve. But in this video, we're moving on to a new subject, and it's about trading things. Well, when you think of trading something, this is something you probably might think of. And yeah, that was a trade. But the question is, how can we make a good trade? So we're going to show 3 examples of a trading problem. And we're going to understand along the way why this might work and why this might not work. So here is scenario 1. But before we get to scenario 1, from the video with the pets being traded, we can explain that a trade can be affected when the price of the object, the quality of the object, the number of resources you can get, and more. So here's scenario 1. So scenario 1. It says here that a person named Charlie can make cakes, and Mary can make blankets. So what we can see here is there are 2 things. Charlie can make cakes, and Mary can make blankets. What they want to do is make sure that both of them have cakes and blankets. So this is going to be an easy one, because this tells you that there's going to be a trade of objects that are being needed. For example, Charlie is going to give some cakes over to Mary. But also, Mary is going to give blankets to Charlie. And that seems like a fair trade, because even though Charlie is giving up some cakes, he can still make more, but give them to Mary. But Mary can make blankets, but gives a little bit to Charlie, so now they are both happy. So an example of this happening is when you make something and another person makes something, but you want the objects that the other person has, but you can't make. So, you do a trade with each other like this. However, that is not always the case. There is a little problem that gets bigger in problem number 2. So here is problem number 2. It says that Charlie can make cakes really. So right here, this is another problem. It says that Charlie can make cakes really fast, but he can make blankets very slow. On the other hand, Mary can make blankets fast, but makes cakes very slow. So what can you think about this scenario? Well, what we can say is Charlie is really good at making cakes, but is less efficient on making blankets. Mary, on the other hand, can make blankets faster than Charlie. However, can make cakes slower and less efficient than Charlie. So in this scenario, efficiency is going to control who is going to make which product and who is going to be trading to who. So the main goal of economics for a buyer's perspective or a trader's perspective is to try to produce things at a very, very cheap cost, but also make a really good deal out of it. Here's an example. Charlie is really good at making cakes, but is less productive at making blankets. Mary is really good at making blankets, but is really bad at making cakes. So you know what's going to happen? Since Charlie is more efficient with cakes, they're going to give cakes to Mary. However, on the other hand, Mary is really good at making blankets, so it's more efficient than Charlie. So they swap with blankets. So in this case scenario, efficiency on how much money it is to produce these items is going to dictate who is trading what. To put this in real life, there's actually a real life example. We have two nations. We have the USA as a country, and we also have South Africa. So basically, we have two things. On one side, South Africa is a major export of gold. Gold is something in South Africa that could leave the country and be traded for new items. The problem is, the USA has paper that they want to export, but they want gold. The thing is, for South Africa, they want paper. Or should I say, they demand paper. So here's how it's going to work. The USA is going to bring South Africa, paper, and South Africa is going to bring America gold. The reason why this dictates it is because South Africa can produce gold and America can produce paper. But the only way that the two is going to demand each other's items or resources is if they sell their resource that can be made there to their other country and then buy it with the money to resources that they can't make in their country. The USA is going to sell paper to South Africa, but it's going to buy gold for them. South Africa is going to sell gold to get money, but then want paper, because paper can't be made in South Africa. So that is a more complex idea of scenario number 2, how efficiency and producing something is going to dictate on what you trade and what you buy. So, problem number 2 is a little bit more complicated than number 1 because with number 2, you have to think a little bit more about it. But number 3 is a little bit more confusing. Charlie makes cakes and blankets. However, Mary has a disadvantage because in both areas, she cannot make cakes and blankets very fast. She cannot compete with Charlie. So in this case scenario, there are many factors that can dictate this. Many people in our economics class have been saying, well, why can't Mary use money to buy the cakes and blankets from Charlie? Well, the problem is Mary would be losing money. And not only that, Charlie would have like an advantage over Mary. And Charlie would have a profit from Mary. This is not good. There is a definition in economics that we can explain. When there is an absolute advantage, yes, that is literally what it's called, the absolute advantage. This happens when a company, a country, or someone can mass produce more items more efficiently than their opponent or their competitor. which means trying to find a fair trade deal is very complicated. We're going to explain a little bit more about absolute advantage because in the next video, we're going to learn about, well, if this happens, then who is going to produce what and who is going to get the fair share and who is going to trade fairly. We can solve that using a mathematical formula, but we are going to understand that absolute advantages are more than just thinking. They're problems. So in order to solve it, that's what we're going to learn next. So that was the introduction to trade. We learned that resources, efficiency, the quality of your product, and how much have been stored and supplied is going to affect someone's trade and how they want to trade fairly. Thank you for watching Top in Your Life's Math Industry. Like and subscribe.